working particularly with our real littlies to join our coordinating team. Currently, we have a couple of therapists from special schools, one from Talklink, myself from Ministry of Education, and one working in special schools and a little bit in CDS actually. But we'd love to have another person to join our team who can kind of just help with the planning process and being able to give a perspective that will be relevant for those of us in the SIG who are working in that context, because we really want to make this time as valuable for us all as we can. So if you're interested, you have our email, please get in touch and we can have a bit more of a chat around what that involves and whether you'd be keen to join in. Be wonderful. Alrighty, so our topic for today, we've kind of already talked about a little bit about what this is going to be about, but we're really keen to hear about what some of the work is happening around New Zealand, around communication boards and the process around how those kind of happen, what are some of the wins, what are some of the challenges, so that we can be good advocates for AAC in our local communities. So I'm going to hand over to Lily and she's going to take us through the first part of our content for today.
I think it might be me for the first part.
One of you, yes, that would be wonderful.
Lily and Lauren together. Yeah, so welcome to, oh, I can hear myself on my other computer. Welcome. Today we're going to start talking about AAC in the different communities, and there's lots of awesome AAC communication boards going up around the place. And I was just following up. We've got Joseph Allan from the Manurewa Local Board joining us first. I think I'm just checking to see if he's on the call. Oh, he's just coming on now. Yeah, so we thought we would share what's happening, what everyone out there is doing, and yeah, Lily.
Yeah, so welcome, Joseph. Thank you for joining us.
Oh, here he is. If Joseph would like to unmute himself.
Yeah, there we go.
Hi, Joseph. Welcome.
Hi.
Hi. Thank you for coming along to our lovely call of a whole bunch of SLTs. So Joseph is a member of the Manurewa Local Board, and we just thought it would be great to hear from a non-SLT perspective how it all happened and how you got a communication board included in the amazing accessible playground you have running up there.
Okay, so thank you, and sorry, I've only just joined, and I've got another meeting to go to, unfortunately. But look, how did this come about? Well, this initially sort of started off when I first joined the board. I saw a very old playground down at Weymouth, and I wanted it to become a space for all ages, because a lot of our playgrounds are just for a very sort of limited age range. And then we bought a house in Hill Park, and it was a house that I wanted to buy. And there was a girl, well, a lady there who has spina bifida, and she's in a wheelchair. And we wanted to buy the house. Basically, to buy the house, we had Emma stayed with us for 9 months, and she taught us so much, having someone with, you know, that's wheelchair in the home, and she got to sort of be part of the family, but realizing that you know, it's not just about all ages, it's about all abilities, and that's really important. So I did a lot of research, and I saw you know, there was the Margaret Mayhew playground down at Christchurch, which was you know, failed in some parts because they hadn't gone to the community first. They sort of, you know, to sort of ask what the needs, what they wanted. And I also talked to Lauren as well in a conversation, because I was sort of thinking, well, who do we ask? Do we ask CCS Disability Action? We ask a whole range of people, Cerebral Palsy Foundation, and I was thinking, well, what about the blind and deaf communities? And of course, Lauren's, I still remember, says, yes, of course you must contact them, which was the right answer. And look, we got them on board Acorn Autism as well. That was another partner. And the something home group, I forget the Wilson Home Group as well. Yeah, so they all came along, and we with when we have playgrounds, we have there's when we're designing them, first you have the community consultation, then you go through the next stage, which is the concept design, then the detailed design, so and then there's the launch, and there's a whole process that you go through. And I said what we want to do is have that working group, those people, and we also had some parents from the community as well, with children with disabilities, and they came to part of that group. And each stage we would have them come along, we'd meet, and would have the staff there showing them the concept plans. It was really good to have them there, because there was things which I'd researched, and I thought that, you know, that we should be having this in the playground, and it was good to have those in the know there to sort of say, yes, actually we should have those, and particularly around the accessible toilet. So there was the need for a adult-sized change table, because, you know, you've got children, I guess, 14-year-olds who are the size of an adult, and you know, they were able to share their experiences, how families have toilet or in the back of the van, or just simply go home. So it's about getting the right people there, and the people from Deaf Aotearoa, they were, you know, in the group we had someone from the Blind Foundation, so we had someone that was doing sign, and then someone would pass around a piece of paper. So we had all of this going on, and look, so to get it right, we got the right people around the table. We didn't pay them anything, we acknowledged them as volunteers at the Volunteers Wars. The Deaf Aotearoa were there. They were so thankful, actually. A lot of them were thankful because nobody had ever asked them before. And they worked with Acorn Autism on the signs. So we've got the signs are there. And look, I think they could be reused, and they should be reused. It's a first, and I guess the way to sort of approach that would be to, well, I could connect you with, I think it was Natasha with Deaf Aotearoa, to get those same boards, and they've got QR codes and that sort of thing, so people can go and watch a video. You had a few other questions that I had, I think. Yeah, so that's how the communication boards were set up. They were basically came around from input from Deaf Aotearoa. And so what's the best way to approach and support local boards to add communication boards to playgrounds? All the local boards are going through it, and we've got a meeting this afternoon to adopt our draft local board plan. So every 3 years, the local board plans get refreshed, and the new local board goes in, and they, you know, go out to the community and see what they want. So when those local board plans come out through the council website, there's an opportunity to feedback directly on those local board plans, and I guess is to get something in the local board plans about accessibility, about communication boards, you know, and sort of say, we've seen them down at Keith Park. We know that they're there, and they've been really successful, and it was an award-winning playground too. So we got Playground of the Year. So why can't we transport those to other parts of Tamaki Makaurau? And I think, any questions?
Thanks, Joseph. That was really insightful. Where's what Brianna said? Where can we find out when the trainee or draft boards are happening? So do they all happen at the same time each year, or does each board have their own cycle?
No, all happening now. So we're adopting our draft plan today. And yeah, so that's happening soon. at 1:30, and all the other boards will be doing the same. So that'll happen within this week. Some will have already adopted theirs, and some are to adopt theirs. So, and the process is then there'll be a month or so of consultation, and you can do a submission to the local board plan as well. So you should do the online submission. I mean, you can do as many as you like for as many different boards as you like. And if you can, it's always good to go and speak to the local board and present to the local board if you've got capacity to do that, because that'll make a difference.
Well, thanks, Joseph. There's a couple more questions if you've got time. One of them is, what is the first step about going to talk to someone at council about having core boards? Who would we contact? So
the first step about, sorry, say again?
Talking to someone at council about having communication boards. Do you know who the contact at councils would be, or is it best to go through local boards?
I would email all the local board chairs, you know, and then ask if this could be referred, you know, or put into the local board plan. Yeah, so I would first of all fire an email off to the chair and see who comes to each of the local board chairs and see who comes back, and then also make a submission on the local board plan, which will be coming up shortly. Yeah.
And the other question is it the same process for boards outside of Auckland? You don't know.
Yeah, I don't know, because we're the only ones with local boards, right? So all the others are council. So you'd be writing to the mayor, I guess, in that situation. Yeah, but I would imagine there'll be some sort of statutory obligation that they do need to have local board plans. It's part of the consultation process. But certainly kick off an email to council in the first instance, because staff probably, you know, the job of your elected representative will be to pass that on to council staff, and then they can go and do all the work. Yeah. But the work is, you know, you've already got it. Have you got a photo of one of the boards? I mean, that's always good to sort of include that with it if you can.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you know if there's a list somewhere of local board chairs, or is it just that information on the council website somewhere?
Yeah, it's on the council website. So you go to see local boards, and they list all the local boards, and you've got to click on, go to the contact and that sort of thing. Okay.
Awesome. Thanks, Joseph. So that was super insightful. Really good to have it from an insider's perspective.
Thank you.
And we love the Kipe Park. Thoroughly recommend anyone in Auckland going to visit it.
Excellent. Thank you.
Actually, one more thing. Have you seen them being used often?
Well, sorry?
Or the communication boards, have you seen them being used often?
I don't go there that often, but
okay.
I've we certainly got good feedback from them, and you know, it's about normalizing, isn't it? That's sign language and that sort of thing. So we should have more of it. You know, that's the thing. If we have more of them, then it's like, oh yeah, I've seen one of those. It's one of those other parts. You know.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you,
okay.
And good luck at the local board meeting. Thank you, Joseph.
Thanks for your time.
Thank you. See you then. Bye.
Yeah.
Okay, so now it's my turn to interview the lovely Fern.
Kia ora.
Fern.
Hello.
Hello. So could you tell us a little bit about your context and what you've been involved with is it the Henderson Massey board?
Yep. So that's our local board that I live in, and I'm fortunate enough my kids go to school with one of the local board members, so I hit her up at a local Kia's Scout meeting about, you know, how we could get things going, and I emailed her directly, and then she put me on to the secretary of the local board. The reason that I got in touch with her was just because we're really fortunate in West Auckland. We've got some really amazing parks and playgrounds that have recently gone under quite a bit of redoing, with lots of accessibility features in terms of physical disability. And so I thought it would be an opportunity to talk to them a bit more about, communication accessibility.
Oh, I'll just throw my questions. What were the steps that you needed to take?
So initially I contacted the local board member, Brooke Loader, and she put me in touch with the secretary for the board. And then each board meeting, which happens monthly, all local boards will have a monthly meeting, and the public are able to go and present issues to the local board, but it has to be diarised. So you have to contact the secretary of the board with your topic and what you want to talk on, and then they give you two options. There's a deputation, which is 7 minutes, or there's another type of presentation which is like 4 minutes. And I just thought, classic SLT, there's no way I could talk for just 4 minutes, and so I went with the deputation. I had to put together my presentation beforehand, 2 weeks beforehand, and send it to them. And then there was 5 minutes to present and 2 minutes for question and asking. So they diarised me and they told me when I'd be presenting, and then I'd sort of turn up on the day and share what I wanted to share with them.
Oh, and what were the challenges?
I wasn't prepared for some of the questions that they asked. So one of the questions they asked was, how did I plan to maximize the impact in terms of making it a national approach, and what were we doing to kind of get it spread across the country? And I said, well, I'm here talking to you. And they also asked me about liaison with other organisations. So in Waitakere, there's Sport Waitakere and Sport NZ are working at accessibility from physical disability for playgrounds and increasing access to playgrounds. And she asked me, have you considered working alongside them? Well, we didn't know that was a project that they were undertaking. We have since Paula Shannon, the woman with the contacts, she's been in touch with someone from Sport Waitakere because she knows somebody, and so we're having conversations with them. So as they're making plans around physical adaptations to playgrounds in the area, we're hoping to come in and be able to advise on then communication accessibility on top of that, so that they might encompass it in their project that they're running, is kind of our hopes at the moment.
Oh, hopefully. And what were the wins, apart from obviously getting the core board? That's a big win. Any other wins?
Well, I didn't get the core board yet, Lily.
Oh,
they
okay.
came back and said they kind of outcome the look. So you present and then they generate an outcome for the local, and the outcome of the meeting was that they listened to what I had to say. So they didn't make a plan to do anything, which was a bit of a shame. But what I was able to do was I physically took an A0 core board with me. So that garnered quite a lot of, oh, what's that kind of thing. And I think just making them more aware of how we support. And what was actually quite helpful is that there was somebody from Connections based in Henderson, who are a conductive education centre for adults who've had a stroke. So they were talking lots about communication and physical accessibility and that sort of stuff. And so that came after I'd done my chat, and so that was quite nice that there was sort of a theme running through. And I was able to kind of show that there's, you know, we've got some really great stuff in Whangarei and in Tairāwhiti and now Kapiti and in counties, and that this is, you know, I was able to kind of be like, you don't want to be behind the 8 ball on this. But one of the things that they did share as well is that, as Aucklanders will know, Auckland Council have put significant constraints on budgets of late. So that was another challenge that we had to kind of navigate. But what we're talking about in terms of if you just want a A0 core board printed on ACM, you know, Talklink's cost for the charge for that is $380. It's not huge, significant costs to local councils, and that was something that I was able to kind of really hammer home, that this was not something that's going to cost you huge amounts of money to just increase that accessibility, which they were really passionate about. So watch this space in terms of wins, but I think you know, you can present again, you know, that you can, if you sort of dissatisfied, you can go back and present to them again and talk to them further about things, just be a bit of a squeaky wheel. And I shared a video from our YouTube channel that we put together, which is sort of lots of different people using communication devices, low tech, high tech, alternative pencils, all kinds of things, and that really blew them away. I think about thinking that there were these kids out there with such a wide range of communication, so just brought their attention, I think, to the issue.
Awesome. And do you have any other advice if someone wanted to do this apart from being a squeaky wheel?
Yeah, I think it's just a case of you know, go and talk to your local board or to your council, you know, when they're meeting, that we've got a right as the public to go and raise these things. And if we are systematically, you know, if I went in April and then someone else went and spoke to them in a couple of months' time and so on, you know, we'd start to get a little bit of momentum going. And it was a really easy and straightforward process to do. And also when we posted that I was going to do that on our Facebook page, it is something that's really important to our extended whānau and our clients out there. This is something that people really want, and so it felt really good to be able to be a voice for the families that would benefit the most from this. So it's a good one.
Are you able to share that presentation that you gave them?
Yes.
And can we access the video as well?
Yeah, I'll post the video in the chat because it's just on our YouTube channel, I believe. So I'll do that now.
Okay. Thanks, Fern.
Cool. Yeah.
Back to you, Brianna.
Awesome. That was really cool to hear about all your work in Auckland. I think, yeah, it's just really exciting to, I think, get the really practical information as well, aside from, you know, the big picture. I think we're all on board with the bigger picture stuff, but to be able to hear the steps and kind of the minute details of just what it can look like is really helpful. And now keen to, I guess, extend it a bit further beyond Auckland, because even though there are a lot of us in this SIG who are from Auckland, we have lots of people from across New Zealand. Keen to hear from a couple of others who came back from the email that I sent last week saying, hey, we are doing some stuff locally and would be keen to share a little bit. So Kristina, if you're on the call, would you be able to jump in now and share a bit about your work?
Yep, sure.
Thank you.
I will try and share my screen if I can work this out. This will stop other screen sharing. Do you want to continue? I think I do. And now that's really good, isn't it? I had opened it, but I can't. Just have a look where this is. This is where I wanted to go. And maybe we can go from the beginning. It's not a long presentation at all. I don't want to take over, but I thought some pictures might be interesting. And I think at the moment you're seeing everything, so I'm trying to show it to you. How's this shown to you? Can you see my notes as well, or you can? Right, that'd be better. And okay, sweet. So yeah, I got involved in a little project. So I'm based in Tairāwhiti, Henderson. I'm a speech language therapist working for the Ministry of Education, and this has been my baby for the last 3 years. Some of what's been shared has been quite familiar. So I also did a petition to the local council, and I just wanted to start with this picture. It is a presentation that I held. That's part of a presentation that I held somewhere else, because this is my favorite location. I just love the backdrop, and this is right all the way up in Aotearoa, so up all the way up the east coast. I wanted to give you a brief outline of what our board looked like. So we have got one in Te Reo and one in English, and we've got a brief explanation up the top of how to use boards for the public. And they also had, oh, sorry, that's probably all I wanted to say there. When we created the Te Reo board, it was reviewed by our Ministry of Education kaitaka wainga, by the Maori District Advisor, by the Council Maori Advisor. I was lucky enough to have a local Maori SLT who had a look at it, and by some whānau. And in addition to that, the Maori board was trialled in a kohanga reo with all their tamariki, and I was able to get a video at that time. I used that video of the trial and a video of someone using a core board in one of our local schools at my council presentation, which was both really powerful. I won't be able to share those, unfortunately, because I just have consent for those two for the presentation at the council. But you can, I think, watch on YouTube the presentation at the council if you wanted to. It was important to me that the boards are accessible and portable. So we've got the QR code there, and at the moment they can be scanned, and then the PDF version can be downloaded on a phone or printed later. We don't have any videos on there at this stage. Just a brief outline where they are. So all our locations have both boards there, either on either side, so on opposite sides or side by side. And we've got 11 locations, so all the way up from Wharekahika, and then down to town. In town, we've got them at the Botanical Gardens, at a lion park. That's where the Lion's Bike Park. That's where you see. That's what you see on the right side. At the Adventure Playground and at the Hospital Playground. We are just waiting the last one to be installed in our newly developed local pool. So yeah, and when I'm saying the last one, I got funding for these 11 locations when I applied for that, and that is sort of the funding that I've had. I'm hoping, and I'll talk a little bit about that later, that will continue. There's no national word, as far as I know, in Te Reo for core boards, and so I was looking. I needed a board. I needed a heading for our board. And so the name Kupuatua was gifted to us by Victor Walker, who's a local high-standing Maori, I suppose. And his words for the rationale, or for the whakapapa for this word, is that the word Kupuatua for the contents of the core board essentially means essential words as the essence for language development. Atua means many things, but it's always synonymous with power, authority, celestial essence, divinity, and prestige. Kupuatua stresses the importance of the function and the content of the core board. That really touched me. I thought he really captured that incredibly well, and I'm really grateful for him that he gifted that word to us. It's still my hope that we would have a consensus about a word, and we could all use the same Te Reo word for core board. On this slide here, you can see the boards on the playground in Tiki Tiki. So one view is from either side of the board. One is looking from the playground and the other one is looking into the playground. The first board that we had installed was the one in the Botanical Gardens that happened last year in April 2022. And we celebrated this with a blessing of the board, which was attended by the funders. So this board was funded by the Friends of the Botanical Gardens, by council representatives, and the person who installed the board. And then there's me and and my manager at the time. And yeah, it was a really beautiful opportunity to celebrate the positive collaboration of the work with everyone. We have tried to sort of create, or we have asked around blessings for other boards when we had community input, and we had one other board blessed, and one of our boards was part of the opening ceremony of the local hospital playground. In general, if you're wondering how we funded the boards, so it was possibly through that trust, the Friends of the Botanical Gardens. I made an application to a local trust, Tairāwhiti, and got half of the boards funded, but the requirement was that it had to be a regional initiative, hence the vast rollout. And I did have some trouble getting the funding for the other half, and so I was lucky that the Regional Ministry of Education discretionary fund funded the remaining boards. And just a brief sort of talk about the development since then and future projects. So it's definitely raised a lot of awareness. I was invited to present at the Recreation Aotearoa conference. That is an organisation which sort of works with people who work in the parks, play and open space industry. So council representatives who design playgrounds and other play advocates attend that. So that was a really great opportunity to share a bit more about core boards. And I also had a follow-up presentation with the local council recently, because when I did my initial presentation, it went to the councillors, but not actually to the park and outdoor spaces team, I think. So they are now considering installing these core boards independently when developing new places, which is great. What was really helpful in my situation was that we got the installer is one of the local sign installer for the council, so they can just continue to go straight directly to him. They don't have to go to anyone else. My future projects and dreams. I am hoping to do a follow-up questionnaire to get more information from the public around post-installation. I did have a pre-installation questionnaire that we ran through schools and the general public to get some ideas of where they wanted boards, what they should look like, those kind of things. I'm hoping to create a bilingual video introducing the boards in our community and explaining a little bit more of how they should be used or how they could be used. And I would love to have a map that sort of is accessible to the general public with all the core board locations across New Zealand, so people can know where they are, which I think would be amazing. Right, I think that's me.
Thank you, Kristina. That was wonderful. Thank you for sharing those photos as well, to be able to get a bit of a gist as to how things looked. Really, really cool as well to see how, yeah, that partnership with local iwi and hapu to be able to get it in both of our, two of our three national languages. It's really, really cool. Can I ask, because it sounds like a lot of work went into this, just to get a bit of an idea of what was kind of the timeline between when this kind of started versus to now, so that we can get a bit of an idea, because we know that putting things through council can take quite a bit of time. So just to get a bit of a maybe reality check of just what were those stages like, getting them installed and getting the consultation done.
Yeah, so it was quite tricky. I presented the idea to my manager in, I think, May 2020, and we went to initially we talked to the mayor in October 2020, but then we didn't do the presentation until almost a year later, just due to timing for the council and the background work that I was doing with the questionnaire and yeah, getting quotes. They did say straight away to us that we shouldn't be asking for money from the council. So that's in that time I was writing applications to trusts and see what I can do. And after that initial presentation, I think it still took about 6 to 8 months for the first installation. That was almost the easy one, the one that was separately funded at the Botanical Gardens. The finding the locations with the board along the east coast was difficult, because there was a lot of redevelopment of township playgrounds, so it had to be aligned with, if they get a new playground, then we had to wait until that was happening. So yeah, I started the journey in 2020, and we are waiting for the last board to be installed any time now when that Poole is finished. So I'm holding on to that one. Yeah, so about a 3-year project, but with good progress in between. The big rollout for most of the boards up the coast was, I think, so I would have said it was this year, so it must have been January, because it definitely wasn't February. So early this year, yeah.
Awesome, thank you. That just kind of helps paint it a wee bit as well. Thank you for your time and sharing with us. I'm sure any other SIG members can pop any questions in the chat to kind of follow up with that. Thank you. And lastly, Denise, if you're on the call, would you be able to jump in and share some of your work from Tokerau?
Hi, kia ora koutou. Yes, certainly. I think a lot has already been said, so I'm going to try not to repeat some of those processes that the others have gone through. They're quite similar when you come to the district or regional councils. So I'll just give you a brief update. So I'm in Te Tai Tokerau, so in Whangarei up north, and another speech language therapist and myself. So Akshat, he actually sat on the Whangarei District Council Disability Forum. He's sat on there, just making sure that we have some communication access in the communities. There's a lot of focus around mobility access, and he wanted to just be that voice of communication access, and so he was great at that. He then asked me to join in to do a presentation at the council, and that was, well, that's basically almost 2.5 years ago. So we did our first presentation to the district council, but to the disability forum, which was really great because we were already focused on their focus is access in the community for communication, mobility, whatever it is. So that was really great that we got into the right forum from the beginning, because I think that's where a lot of time is spent in trying to negotiate through the council. We did our presentation, and the reception was great. And so from there on, the process was that we needed to, first of all, have a core board that we could give or gift or promote, because we say we want core boards in the community, but then which one? And what does that look like? So on the sideline, we were doing a process where there were a couple of SLTs, so Michelle Bonetti, Akshat and myself, that would get together and discuss what that looks like. And I'm in a fortunate position that I do work at Blomfield Special School up here, and I do private speech therapy. So in that way, I have access to a lot of our special needs whānau. So we decided to go the route, I set out a survey. So we started as to where do we want it, and what do we want, what's the purpose of it, what's the function. So we asked, there were about 250 people that received the survey. We did a survey monkey, just asking, if you had a board and it looked like this, where would you like it? Who are you? Are you a teacher, a parent, a speech language therapist? So we could gather some data. I put that into a report and then presented that back to the council. In the meantime, parallel, we were developing at Blomfield Special School. We obviously had identified the need for a bilingual Te Reo English core board. 60% of our population in our school is Te Reo in background, and needed that development needed to happen anyway. So we just merged those two processes. So we had a great Māori whānau liaison group at the school that we could hand over a translated version. So I'm just going to our questions there, what our challenges. So I'm going to throw one of the challenges in here. So one of our challenges was, how do we go about the translation process? And we found through a lot of discussion that it was complicating the situation by giving an English core board to many people and saying, translate it for us. It was easier if we started in-house, do a translation and hand that out for consultation. And so we went about it in that way. We had our local whānau of the school do the translation, then we handed it out. It went up to NZSTA, to the Kaumatua there. It was really, we tried to follow due process. And in the end, we had an agreed upon board that everybody had input and everybody was happy with. So we have, we used the 77 core word core board, and we made 2 or 3 changes to it. Through the process, there was a lot of input about also having basically it's, you've got the core board out in the community, and we're looking at the purpose of why. What do we want to use the board for? We want to use it for communication, yes. But the other thing was, a lot of people were saying, let's have it localized or customized or personalized to the place that it's standing at. So we went into a consultation and we decided to, it's like having the fringe. So you've got your 77 core words, but they basically, you don't have any of your nouns or places on there. And so we decided to add a strip to there was a big discussion. Do we do like a fringe that flips over the top with metal bars? And, you know, it becomes quite complicated. But we decided to have a strip down, and I'll share a screen with you now. Maybe I'll do that now. To have a strip down the side that would have some relevance. So I'm not sure. I'll share here, yes. And then this one. Can you all see that? Yep. You able to see that? Yeah, okay. So as you can see down the, I'll just try and minimize it slightly. Down the right-hand side there, you could see this is a particular school that wanted one at their school, and they would like sand pit, rock garden, they've got a lizard garden, they've got flowers and orchards, they've got alpacas there. And so it gives the students in this particular school a space for them to talk with their core words, but about places that they want to visit or what they've done when they were youth in those spaces in the school. I'll come back to this now, just pop my face back in there. So just to go back to the process, so it was decided that we would like to have these customized core boards. The district council had given us, we're still there. The district council had given us three places to place the core boards. So we've got them in Mayor Park, Manda Park, and at our town basin playground. 2 were funded by Rotary, and 1 was funded by the district council. Our survey also showed, we asked people, where do you want to see these? And they were saying, you know, library, the pools, shopping centres, at the beaches. So we've got this list of where we'd like to see them and prioritise them. So that's really cool to speak to something to, you know, to the district council. Our school, Blomfield School, does have a lot of satellites, so it does give us a little bit more far-reaching up into Kaitaia, Oromahoe. So all those schools have core boards as well, big wall core boards outside. So just to come back, once we had then received the necessary permissions and processes had been completed, we got the quotes to have that put up. And I want to just tell what somebody else had said, I think it was you, Kristina, that it isn't actually very expensive when you get down to it. Sometimes they think funding is going to be huge, and it isn't that expensive. So it's good to get a quote ahead of time. So what we did was got a quote so that we can show what an approximate amount is going to be, so that the pricing isn't a big barrier. That was one of the challenges and one of the processes that worked well. Yeah, so we had them up in the community and have had absolutely wonderful feedback. And I'll get to that now. A couple of schools have then approached us to ask for core boards in their schools where they have 1 or 2 special needs, complex communication needs in their schools. And that's really great. So they saw them in the community and have then asked for core boards to be in their schools because they saw the value of their students using them in the community, and they wanted to close that gap. That was really cool. The one thing that was a little bit controversial that you might see on the core board that I showed you, I might show it to you. We have a toilet on it. Heaven forbid, we have a noun in the verbs. But a lot of negotiation went around, and the feeling was that if there's a verb of eat and drink, then we need to pee and poop. So we probably had 6 months discussion about, no longer, about a toilet symbol. So it's the verb of to go toilet, as my wonderful Kiwis that I've learnt around here in New Zealand, you go toilet, it's a verb. Yeah, I didn't know I'd spent 6 months of my life negotiating the word toilet becoming a verb. But anyway, so long story short, we have that on the core board because it's also when they are in the community and the student or the children or people with special needs can then actually talk about that they need to go to the toilet, which was quite a nice input. The other thing that we changed on the core board that you'll see through negotiation is the yes/no symbols. We removed the smiley face and the sad face from the yes and the no, that it's emotionless. And that came from feedback from some, it's about sexual violence and abuse. And they were just saying that in their spheres, they've removed the emotions of yes and no's, and they wanted them to be quite neutral. So we embraced that and added that. I'll share that core board again if you just want to see that. And I'll come to our challenges. I'm almost finished speaking. You'll just see at the bottom the yes and the no. It's a triangle there, and I'm not sure, I can't see the no at the other end, but it's the same cross but without the face. And then the toilet bottom left, the wharipaku, and yeah, and it's in the alphabet, so it is from A to Z, top to bottom, left to right. So that's basically what I wanted to tell you about that. Real quick, helpful steps I've done through the survey was really helpful in having stats that you can talk to. And our biggest wins was actually through social media. A couple of parents saw these and posted them on social media, and everybody was chatting about it profusely, which was really amazing. So I think social media is the way to go and embrace. And I just want to say that I've learned something really great about the QR code today. So I think that's something we're going to definitely embrace, and get a QR code with some video. If there's already a video out, maybe we could share that we QR code to the same video. But that's that's awesome. And also to Kristina, that kupu atua, really lovely. So yeah, I think we can keep going with that movement. That's it from me.
Denise, awesome to hear about what it's looked like in your context. Again, similar in some ways, but it's also been very localized with what those processes have looked like, and the addition of the fringe. Really cool to hear about just how we can adapt things slightly depending on the context that we're in and what's going to be appropriate for that. So that's really cool. Thank you for your time sharing. All right, Lily, I'm going to pass to you for our last 9 minutes before we finish up here. You're going to lead us through this next bit.
Okay, so we're just going to have some breakout groups. The groups will be listed on your screen, just where we can discuss maybe what we've heard today, and if anyone had any work going on in their local communities. Oh, sorry. So I'm going to open up. Oh, if everyone can open up the Google Slides, and it will have some collaborative notes that we can work on together.
Yeah, so that we thought that if we created a Google Slide,
know that was probably pretty short, but hopefully it got some of those thinking juices flowing and connecting with some people in your local area who you can continue to connect with after the SIG. We'd love to keep this conversation going. I know in my group we were talking about, is there a way for us in Auckland to just coordinate and share those resources so that we can kind of minimize the time to do all that prep, and also have a bit more of a methodological way of approaching it, methodical way. So yeah, it'll be really cool to see what kind of comes from this conversation. All right, so just to finish up, all of the resources and things like what Fern talked about that she's prepared, and our SIG recording will be sent out in the school holidays. Our next SIG date, pop that one in your diaries for the 14th of September. We're going to have Allan will be doing a presentation around Gestalt language processing in AAC, which is really exciting. So that's going to be a fun one to be at. And yeah, so we'll close now with karakia, and then we'll go well into the rest of our work day. All right, unuhia ki te uru tapu nui, kia wātea, kia mama te ngākau, te tinana te wairua, koia rā ka whakairia ki runga, kia tina, haumie, huie, tai kie. Kia ora koutou, everyone, and thank you for participating, and go well into your final weeks of term before the school holidays. See you later.